last game with the FLVS side rocking double duelist. It's going to be the double duelist being brought out instead for Mira Mesa High School. And the Brooklyn Tech Engineers will have that Raise, the Omen, the Sky, the Jet. So still a double duelist composition, but with the Jet instead of the Reyna, and then a KJ, a real Sentinel will actually be on the board. On top of that, they don't have a Sky for initiating for Mira Mesa High School. How is this attack going to function here?
Well, I mean, you're going to be playing off the contact flashes of KO, and you're going to kind of be expecting Breach to go ahead and kind of be the catalyst for a lot of this stuff. I mean, Breach is absolutely insane on this map if you can really know how to play those angles. I mean, even I think I was on, like, TikTok the other day, and Team Liquid, like, Jumpy came up with, like, a little tutorial for Breach. Like, you can flash spawn from heaven, just right off the rip. It's insane. I would love to see that a couple times, like a couple good pressures out towards spawn, but even then, you're not really worried about too much considering that already Mira Mesa starting things off with the first blood, and they don't really care less. I mean, already Moonkeep looking for a little bit of exchange there. You're getting some good damage off, at least for that Nano Swarm, able to go ahead and kind of make sure that Radiant doesn't have the overheal anymore. And it's looking outstanding in terms of the extra retaliation to be made, because Spike has full control here by the side of the defenders.
Yeah, it's interesting that we've got a refrag composition going on here so far as well. Very interesting split was being made by Mira Mesa High School. What is going on with the flank being brought out here for the Sky of Brooklyn Tech Engineers? Potato, you're going to be all by yourself. Your teammates lagging very far behind. And should the execute come very quickly for Mira Mesa High School, it's going to be very difficult to try to survive that onslaught. Potato doing very good to be able to lag behind inside Central Pillar. Just biding their time. Paranoia, though, catching no one, but the flank from Squiggly rips through Timothy, and there goes Potato. 3 kills in the round, and B-side locked down by the Omen, of all things, as the Engineers will take themselves through round 1 successfully.
I mean, even then, we've already heard it from players. I mean, Split kind of feels a little bit easier on the attack side rather than the defense. In contrast to what you have in your public games whenever you're sitting in a 5-man stack. I mean, you know what the side executions look like. You know how to get onto site. You know how to play these things out. But even then, when you're playing that composition, that's the only thing you have to work with. These retakes are a little bit different because they obviously have different angles to come from. And Brooklyn Tech are going to be not only strong in terms of actually holding the sites outright on the defense, but better yet, their post plants with these nano swarms and that alarm bot is going to probably look a lot more successful in the big scheme of things. So I'm curious to see what exactly of a game plan is going to go underway, because obviously the second round isn't going to work out too well for you at the first hit. So knowing that you have the guns off the back of it are also going to really go ahead and just create a lot of contention here. With Andrew getting a 3K on the board, very, very much closer to that Blaze store to be online here. But I mean, with everybody else just absolutely pushing up and getting all the sheriffs in the world to play with, you couldn't really care too much about what's there. Good shots off the back of that, and the second to go ahead and top it off, but you gotta shut this guy down eventually. 50 HP in a dream, more like a death.
That goes tipping me. That's exactly what you want to see if you're an Engineer fan. Unfortunately, what you don't want to see, Dallas, is 3 players losing their life in that round.
Yeah.
1 player, it's okay. 2 players, it's not great. 3 players is really rough, especially when those last 2 arguably could have been non-factors in the first place. If you had already taken down Tip and Me, it was just a single player. If you had double swung them in tandem, the likelihood is they would have only gotten 1. There was 2 deaths. Maybe you counted just a 1 death. That was totally unnecessary for the side. It's going to make this round very disjointed. When you lose 3 players, you have to really balance the composition for rifles as a whole for your team, and you have to kind of dictate as a whole, what is the team going to be bringing to the table? How much are you willing to force with and engage with? I think a lot of that's going to go towards utility, very cheap rifle buys. Here comes Comey. Judge in hand. You go aggressive into the round, but sitting inside Cubby all the way back behind screens. It's Moonkey with an an Ares. A second one gained for the side here of the Engineers as a spray down by Moonkey. Majestic Nuts joining in with the Spectre in Mira Mesa High School. Where have you been? You're missing here in this 3rd round. Everyone is dead, and it's hardly a loss against the Brooklyn Tech Engineers.
An absolute mow down here from the side of Brooklyn Tech. I mean, all things considered, you saw the kills obviously to go through, guns to be picked up in the meantime, and a lot of those being salvaged there at the rear end of that. So I mean, that is huge, not only just in terms of the stance of getting on the board, but better yet, your economy is flourishing out of the latter end of that. I mean, you were so happy with that result and everything, considering that you're on Split now, looking at the defensive side of the map. And I mean, from what we hear out of players, knowing that, I mean, your defensive side is looking like this, you are here to play. I mean, knowing that already, look at that double duelist. You're playing for that. You're not really too worried about the retakes and everything. Your actual just outright holds on site are looking that strong initially. Whew, we're going to have to see some breaks coming pretty quickly.
Dallas, Mira Mesa High School now stepping into round 4. We're looking like we're about to see the exact same thing we saw on Ascent in the first 2 halves. The first halves in the entire map. I guess there's only 2 halves, so it's hard to say first. Both halves started with a 4-0 start for one side over the other. And right now for MMHS High School, they want to break that mold. It is 3-0 against them for the Engineers, but they've gotten 3 kills. Unfortunately, Andrew's still not dealt with in the back of elbows, able to rip through 2. Peach will drop down closer to sight. Cloudburst dropped away for Andrew, trying to find safe space. 1 up in tower. 1 perusing down over towards sight. Peach will give away the information. Weapons now in hand, but the flick up by Andrew, requiring a 4K as the Engineers do not want to be brutalized here in this round. They'll pop the Blade Storm. Interesting idea from Andrew. Take control of top over towards tower. Spot Peach in the back, but the Blade Storm can't hit the final knife, and Peach will survive with 2 HP to their name as MMHS High School will somehow scrape out round 4. And a timeout to be called as well. Honestly, this early, I'm not shocked. It is split.
Yeah, I mean, even this is the map that's going to go ahead and actually start to kind of test you a little bit already. I mean, on those 2 maps of Ascent, we saw no timeouts coming through, even regardless of the score deficits that we saw in the meantime. So no adjustments trying to be made. Say, this is Ascent, man. We should wake up eventually. Split. You got to come up with a gameplay. You cannot play this one off a wing. You can't really understand the map to its fullest extent just already just off the back of your head. You need to know what exactly you're going to do because your team can be so disconnected on this map because it's not nearly as open. It's very, very funnel to get anywhere that you want to go. So already considering that you're seeing a timeout, you say, all right, what worked out for that round? Well, we switched things up. But to what extent? What was successful? What didn't really work out so well? Why did we lose so many initial bodies? And honestly, at the back of an eco round, you don't have all the substance in the world, I feel, really to understand what's going on here.
Typically, if you look at it as a tactical shooter, you would want to see every single objective once for a defense and a change of at least 1 attempt on the attack, having a varying strategy before you would call a timeout to then adjust your play style accordingly. It's very easy to do that in Valorant where you have, 12 rounds and a half. You have a lot more time to work with. You can make a couple more mistakes. You can give those away. Smaller round esports, you don't have the same luxury. Play styles are very different. It's just not going to work out for you. But doing it so early in Valorant feels like you're wasting a lot of the potential for the longer stage play where you still haven't seen everything here on this map. But it's split, Dallas. It is one of the most annoying maps where if things get out of control, the game is essentially over. And that's a huge concern for a lot of players in this map. Squiggly, though, gets 2 kills right off the rip. Majestic Nuts joins in, does fall to Comey's hands, but Spectre steps in as well. Looked up for the Engineers, but somehow MMHS High School have managed to climb things back up to an even 2 versus 2. Stacked up in the back of sight for A. Trying to hide behind screens. 2 players up in tower. Moonkey steps into the rafters side and will pay the price because Andrew's been a little bit too keyed in on this operator strike and missing that last attempt. May just be the most disastrous position of them all. We'll sit over towards security. Lagging behind, we'll see 1 swing out, second one to go. Can they find them? They do, but it's time there for the defuse. It's all the way in the back corner. Andrew will test their limit. I think they have it, though.
Oh, plenty.
Yeah, and this is going to be the engineer. Why are MMHS escaping from sight
7
with that much time remaining?
Yeah, I mean, already going ahead, just playing that thing out with an operator of all weapons. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm always kind of a little bit shaky about when you're playing retake for a site. But obviously, Andrew's showing that, well, I'm on the defensive side of the map, and I didn't really get my opportunity, right, to start things off. So I'm eventually going to hit some of those shots, especially to go ahead and put the economy of MMHS in shambles. I mean, that is the way you got to do it. Do it on a full round. Make sure you can really switch things up because they just threw your eco off, and you still had a way, especially off those rounds that were won in terms of that spree. You're kind of happy knowing those 3 rounds are kind of gifted to you. That 3rd one especially, where you were already on a kind of thrifty of your own winning that thing out. But these 3 ultimates are the things you got to look out for. Rolling Thunder, easy to engage on the side if they really feel like it, but keep in mind, you're not going to go for a situation like this. You're going to look to get aggressive, but still kind of tame yourself a little bit. Although, too much off the back of that Judge and the Phantom in the back of the map for a flawless round. This is insult to injury.
Honestly, I'm very impressed with Comey, who stepped away from the chamber role we saw last map, Dallas. With a limited break in between, so much so a little bit long. Maybe they got in a couple practice rounds here with the boost pack. Stepping from that now over to the race for this map and doing so well to get to the back of sight all the way over towards elbow. The shots didn't connect. To be fair, they weren't the top dog when it came to Ascent. They were having to stall into the shadows a little bit there of actual Spectres. They were really just a zoner with the operator for most of the game.
Placing swamp grenade.
But they just couldn't secure the kill. Getting them that low, the team can't play cleanup because they can't escape from the smoke. MMHS were capsized by a single piece of utility and not able to adjust their positioning past that point, and it's led them into a flawless round result for the engineers. And now they're going to have to play very cheeky angles. Comey, big plays here. First and foremost, gets one. A second attempt to dive down into ropes, nets them a second, and with the operator having been collected, a third is doomed to follow. This is exactly what you want to see if you're a Mira Mesa High School fan.
I mean, this entire round has been Comey so far, keep in mind. I mean, still with the operator in hand, just saying, all right, I was on the chamber in the last round or in the last map, better yet. So, I mean, I am warmed up on this gun plenty. Sure, didn't get my fair share of shots hit, but I still got another chance here. And even then, I'm pushing all the way through the middle, found all the necessary kills. Started on the A side, has made an entire detour towards B. We have seen this strategy out of MMHS before, but it was on that chamber. It was playing towards panel, getting the initial pick. We're now seeing a repeat and a possible ace off the back of it. Except for actual Spectre wants to step in and have a taste of blood in their own right. Because, well, you gotta show the love with your duelists, right? 5 ultimates to follow up on the back of this one. They could definitely double down here if they really want the investment.
It's a dangerous game we're playing here. Mira Mesa High School are most definitely finding rounds, and the rounds that they've been winning have been very interesting, but we're kind of falling into the stance like you joked about it in the beginning of Ascent last game, Dallas, of, hey guys, we're playing for these thrifty rounds. We're playing for the Sheriff's only playstyle. Why is Mira Mesa High School winning rounds off of judges? Why are they winning rounds off of shotguns? Why are they winning rounds off of super aggressive overextensions with one single man, which, to be fair, if it's working, don't fix it. But it's just been an interesting showcase of Comey blazing the team forward and having to rely on the team to pick up the scraps later. And when Comey dies, the team can't do it. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Comey steps in, showstopper, gets 2 kills, or damages the second, didn't secure it. And the rest of the team just can't even step out into the open to get anything done.
I mean, harnessed aggression is really what it comes down to on this map. I mean, that's why you see Raze as the mainstay duelist on this map, especially, it's just like the same circumstance what you see on Vine. These maps that have very, very narrow entries on the side, this is where you see your Astras and your Razes specifically look to just play anybody else. I mean, sure, you don't see Astras all the time, but keep in mind, probably the best IGL in the game currently, Boaster plays Astra on Bind. I mean, if that just really hits that point home, considering that, well, you need to have this crowd control available, and you need to have the facilitation behind these players, these duelists, really to look good on these sites because they have all the assistance in the world. So you're kind of nurturing them a little bit. We're seeing kind of look good, don't get me wrong, but I mean, these judges are going to be the shining stars of this game. This is the one map, just like Bind, where a Raze and a judge can literally perform better than a rifle.
Yeah. Comey goes in. What else but a judge in the hands here of the Raze for Majestic Nuts? Maybe Comey has the exact same thing in their hand. They get a rifle stand a little bit farther back. Cosmic Divide plays for Mira Mesa High School. The Astra, it's going to be very important to the team. You highlighted IGLs tend to thrive here with it. See if that turns out to be true. Once that Cosmic Divide begins to fade, the engineers will have safe space to start to move forward. Andrew with an operator, slow peeking around the corner away from Alley as best as they possibly can. Waits just half a second before firing, but no one's extended out from that space. East side, a congested mess of both teams. Majestic Nuts will go forward. They'll send a showstar to the back of sight, and Rex will fall victim. A flick to tip him. He does get damage, but can't secure it, relying on the rest of the engineers, who've made quick work of 2. It's just Peach. Now Lackey behind a garage. They'll spray down Monkey, but it's too little too late. Andrew's right click will secure it. Squiggly Diglett will stick down this defuse, and the Brooklyn Tech engineers will find themselves victory here on this map and this round specifically to climb to 7-2 on the defense of Split.
Yeah, just keeping it rolling along. I mean, Brooklyn Tech, obviously, with the start that they had, we expect them to have themselves an early lead, knowing those, I mean, not just a 2, but a 3rd off the back of that, but knowing that even then that they say, honestly, regardless of losing one of these rounds over here and there, we're having ourselves a pretty solid advantage at the end of the day. I mean, sitting at a 5-round delta here for MMHS, I mean, you need to make sure to really find your flow here, because, I mean, obviously, on the defensive side of the map, this is where you're supposed to excel. You're running no Sentinel whatsoever because you're playing for this half and you're already at a deficit where you are locked out. You cannot have an even half. You can't have an advantage no more. It is just how bad of a deficit are you going into the second half with? And you're playing purely for retake because, good Lord, if I see any kind of weird holes, it's not going to be really off the back of anything. It's just going to be straight out fragging. And honestly, that's where the judges start to go crazy again. But I mean, Comey has been a highlight player, can do that, but that's a 50-50 you're rolling into every single time.
Look how slow the Mira Mesa High School side are playing this one. Honestly, for map like Split, that rewards a very aggressive play style with raises, with very tight corners. The boost packs can get you so much height and so much speed and distance. That's why Jet falls off a little bit more. So I'm a little bit concerned about the Brooklyn Tech Engineers when it comes to their attacking side. Though they'll still have that raise, they're lacking the extra bit of initiation power. It's just it's nice, a refreshing breath of fresh air, so to say, here for the Mira Mesa High School side to play slow. The issue is they're in a thrifting round. They don't have the weapons to really warrant that. Why play slow when the weapons you have succeed off of getting in the face of the Brooklyn Tech Engineers? Yeah, it's the wrong round to employ this strategy, and I think if they were to go into this next one with proper weapons in their hand, because they're running out of time, Dallas. Throw up the scoreboard real fast. Look how many rounds are left. Just 2 to get the job done to fight one single round. Because we like to say 3 is the minimum you need to work with in Val. It's like the going point for a lot of teams that second half. Anything less, and it's almost too big of a grave to dig yourself out of. They've got to play very methodical. And once they get the first pick, once they get a second pick, send Comey into the action. Send them deep into the back of side. That's where you're going to have that player go off.
Well, better yet, I mean, this round, keep in mind, you can't just win it. I mean, sure, it's going to be great for the score to get your minimum 3, but I mean, you have to win it definitively if you want even a chance for a next, because that round switch up is going to go ahead and completely demolish your spree going underway. And I mean, every single player has less than a K in their wallet right now. So already an initial pick going through. I mean, 2 attackers just done and dusted with the spike behind them while they're trying to take control of site. You are being held hostage. You're being circled around like sharks are surrounding you in waters, and you just really can't stay afloat. So already Brooklyn Tech, they are just nailing this thing down, find themselves a 9th, and off the back of that, well, MMHS doesn't really have a buy for this one.
Yeah. You said it. Even if they were to win it, they had to win it in a very dominant way. They would lose that loser's bonus. And even with the loser's bonus, Dallas, look where they are.
Get something.
They barely scrounge things up. It looks like the Brooklyn Tech Engineers may just reach double digits, but keep in mind, Mira Mesa High School's 2-round wins have been on thrifties, have been in rounds where they give Comey a judge and just play from there. If this were to continue, this would be the round where they can reach 3 and find some success. But it looks like they're going to go for another plant, another default position, another split that puts their team in a state where they can play a little bit slower on the start, slow prowl in through mid. A lot of this pacing for the map of split used to be dictated by the stage wall that was put forward. Fell back a little bit in terms of strategy as it really created a funnel that wasn't necessary in an already, fatal area in the first place. And it just makes it even more prevalent when Moonkey's got a perfect angle to work with the Vandal. Squiggly Diglett on the A side, finding one, hunting for a second, checked down by Timothy, but the damage has been done elsewhere in mid. All 3 of those players gone. Now with Majestic Nuts judging down another. Peach, you got to get everything going your way, and those paint shells, they start to rip apart your foot. Peach with the reload, perfect timing from Moonkey, ears listening, perked up. And that is a 10-2, my goodness. But if there's a map for a comeback, it is split though, Dallas.
It could be. That is if you're on the right side of the map, and quite frankly, I don't think MMHS is.
Yeah.
Once again, we mentioned that Sentinel. We've gone ahead and hit that point home over and over again because, I mean, quite frankly, it's one of the standout things here to look at. I mean, this is the first thing you notice if you're kind of an analyst of this game, saying, well, usually you get one of each kind of role, then you find that one player and say, well, what do you feel like playing, buddy? And when nobody wants to feel like playing a Sentinel today, that's going to be a really big problem. I mean, already, Kobe, we saw that you could kind of flex on that chamber. Would have worked pretty fine, I want to say, on this map. Not perfectly, but, I mean, better yet, it would have been something. I mean, a trip would have been great here just to kind of slow things down, but already, I mean, even then, your controller isn't really doing too much of that, even then, because the Astra, I mean, it just seems like Tiffany isn't really here to just actually get the holds off that you're looking for. But considering that already, once again, another opening pick, a nice little exchange being made. The shorty found a little bit of value here. It's a good start, but 4 for 4, we still got plenty of time to go.
Yeah, quick hasty retreat made by the engineer side. Bunny hop their way in through sewers. Going to work in through mid instead. 3 players were initially on the A site. They don't know for sure. They know 2 util was there. They're going to say, okay, maybe B site's just a better angle to work with. We'll do a numbers advantage game, Dallas, to retake into this site. Great shots from Peach.
There you go.
And while you were getting swung in for numbers, Mira Mesa High School somehow still come out on top. Peach's unexpected angle, having not been, checked, having not checked their corners whatsoever from the engineers. It's going to pay dividends for them, and Mira Mesa High School will climb to 3, but it was allowed after the Brooklyn Tech Engineers did reach double digits already. and it was just a pistol round. So there is still no actual knowing of how this defense is going to pan out for them yet.
And even then, I mean, you see the force trying to come through, considering, I mean, you have such a leeway in terms of rounds of an advantage over the likes of MHS. I mean, exactly. There's no other question you could really ask yourself there. I mean, just force it up whatever you can, even then Spectre, Stingers, whatever. Take your pick so long as you got the money for it and you get a little bit of armor off the back of that. You couldn't care less, and you could probably find yourself a pretty nice result at the end of the day, knowing that, I mean, this next round, better yet, even then, probably success could come underway. Andrew's just pushing right into spawn. I mean, not even messing around in the slightest. Said, honestly, if we're going to excel in these close quarters, B-Heaven may be our best bet here. And quite frankly, it's sure as heck looking like it because they're playing for a retake. MMHS is giving Brooklyn Tech every ounce of respect in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Spike's all but doomed to go down. They'll have to use the breach util to flush away from the initial plant that would be set up for a garage long hold. Moonkey off screen has an interesting angle up over towards Rafter side. Will drop down though. It's a spray down from the Brooklyn Engineers. My goodness!
Flawless.
If you go flawless in a bonus round against you, and you still can't find a single kill.
Let me know if you need healing.
Let's go ahead and look at this map ban phase now. Hopefully this gives us a bit of intel. The Engineers banned Icebox. A somewhat standard map has definitely fallen off. MMHS decided to ban Lotus. That's a good decision. The Engineers picking Split screams to me when Ascent, when Fracture and Pearl and Haven are still on the board, they wanted this map from the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're playing like it. Which has me scared that this very well can and will go to a third map if the MMHS side continue to play like they have on Ascent.
Well, keep in mind, I mean, it comes down to momentum at the end of the day as well. I mean, considering when you look at a stance like this, I mean, you kind of have to cave your mental a little bit and say, look, they picked this, we just give it up. Do not worry about it in the slightest. It's unfortunate. It's the reality of the situation. They're just kind of rolling through it, going again and again and again. We may see another mother flawless to work with.
Oh,
maybe? Okay. Thank goodness. Okay. Just shy of it. And Spectre, what?
Spectre, I get it's a free gun and we like to make the jokes as much as possible, but this is ridiculous. Tato, thank you. Does the due diligence with the judge in hand. Yeah, you just eat this one on the chin, Dallas. I think that's really what it comes down to. A lot of teams, it's a couple big things that I say separate a top team from a team that can be really good in semi-pro to a team that can, you know, compete in the amateur scene very well. Obviously, this is high school, and I'm sure these players have aspirations, right? They want to move on. Communication is key. Top teams have the best communication. That's one of the first things they look at, consistency in communication. Second scene for semi-pro, you're looking at communication, consistency is a little bit less required, and you're looking for those standout players in their roles. When it comes to the amateur scene, none of that's really being visualized, and you gotta see standout players. And right now, for Mira Mesa High School, mental is the most important factor. That's an enveloping canvas in the overall Valorant pro scene. Everyone needs to have a good mental. That's why top players can fall off if they get taken off a team because they don't fit into another roster like EA. Unfortunately, however that may be, it happens. And right now, for the Engineers, I'm sure they're riding a pretty big high, but unfortunately, it seems to have been slowed and mellowed out here in this round. Just one player remaining out of everyone else on the team that's now been felled, but with an operator in hand, it's just one shot for the rest of the team, the two players that are remaining. And there goes Rex.
A scenario where you kind of expect for Brooklyn Tech, obviously with the man deficit, not really expecting them to kind of win out too much here, but I mean, plenty of potential. Go to even then lockdown. You got all the cushioning in the world. You got 9 rounds between you and your opposition, and that's typically what people get in an entire half. So, I mean, you're gonna swing this operator, really? You got the timing for it, but not the shot! Oh man! We said wrap up the match.
It's a good decision. You said at the very beginning, saying the biggest matchup in the game previously in Ascent was how good we were going to see Madeline play on that Astra, how good she was going to try to carry the team with information, with great smokes, was just controlling the pacing and spacing. We saw pretty good glimpses of it. We just saw a better Omen in general, and Omen tends to be really good in this map. That's why it's a battle between Omens and Astros. Tippamy being subbed in for iCup means you no longer have your go-to Omen, so maybe Tippamy playing in for the Astros, they're kind of their new go-to choice, trying to elevate the team. But lacking that Sentinel and putting, of all things, actual Spectre off of the jet they thrashed with last time on Ascent over to Arena, which is a bit more of a passive role when it comes to being a duelist. You let the jet step in first. You let them Cloudburst Tailwind in and hide within their smoke before sending out the Leer and going past that point. You're a lot slower on that Reyna in comparison. I just don't know why. no KJ, no Cypher, nothing to slow down pacing, nothing to keep them at bay. I just don't know if this is really it for Mira Mesa High School when it comes to the thicker, more engaging rounds here in this series.
Well, regardless of circumstances, I mean, you're already seeing a little bit of the equilibrium on the board until we finally see Potato Tap able to go ahead and close the thing out. Still holding on this B site, hasn't even left in the meantime and still able to get all the shots off necessary to close out a 3K for the round. So a great start once again by Brooklyn Tech. They are rolling themselves, at least with the momentum that we saw in that last map. They're carrying it on right here, right now, but it's got to start with the second round. And if we see a third, that's where the PTSD can really start setting in because, I mean, MMHS, this is where they got to, once again, find their second win. They got to rebound as fast as possible to go ahead and say, look, everything was a fault. It doesn't really matter too much. Split's behind us. We can't concern ourselves with it. But if you go back to that same exact score line and see them just rolling through you here, these first initial couple, it's not going to look good.
Mira Mesa High School, I'm honestly, I like their pistol rounds. They were really aggressive on map 1 over on Split. Took me a minute to get that out there. But I think Brooklyn Tech are a better team when it comes to refrags. How many engagements do we see where Mira Mesa High School seemingly had a huge advantage and then turned it around the other way, and the Brooklyn Tech engineers could get 2 for up and then go trade back for back until the final stages of the round. That has been a consistent for one of the Mira Mesa High School side. It doesn't seem like it's doomed to stop too far out of the way. Moonkie did get a little bit out there, was a little bit trapped over there by Switch. Squiggly Diglett with a nice spray through, and Andrew's just walking while holding left click. Buys a Vandal in a second round, forcing up, I guess, and then somehow uses that to kill off over half the team. What is going on in Brooklyn?
Well, it doesn't really, whatever it is, it's got him up. It's got him playing, and it's got him here. Just looking to go ahead and close things out. I mean, considering it was a 2-0 start, so I mean, obviously they're kind of following that order. But I mean, this is where things start. Is it 3-0? Is it 2-1? The split right here is what dictates, I want to say, the rest of the match and just quite frankly this entire series. If MMHS can kind of wake themselves up, show that obviously they're here to play, I think Andrew has already been a force to be reckoned with that Vandal in hand. Majestic is now going to be tossed that over to, considering that I find it quite odd that you're giving a player that hasn't really heated up in this game yet a very expensive gun and a round that's very critical, but I mean, more power to you. If he feels like he can do it and you're trusting your team with that shot call, then by all means take it.
Stepping in closer towards site. Looks like Mira Mesa High School, we're putting some aggressive people in through A main. Have seemingly fallen back though. Majestic Nuts was all the way in towards Arches. Will retreat back. Unfortunately, Mookie does not have that same luxury as Rex will remove them from the equation. And the rest of the team for Mira Mesa High School will swing in from Courtyard, up through Puppy and in through Tree to take control here of this A site. With Comey still working in, has assistance from Rex. They can at least take down one man up in Rafters as Majestic will not be allowed to escape in parallel. This is where that regrowth's going to come in handy. You've got your Sky still on the board, while there is none available for the Brooklyn Tech Engineers. Just 2 men all by their lonesome, and what can you do? Potato, Spectre in hand, both sides being watched. Great smoke placement here from your Astra. That's great positioning, but it doesn't give you freebies. If the Spectre gets 2 and Potato Tap, Tippy taps around that corner, trades for the Phantom, will tap onto the defuse quickly. Has a perfect line of sight for this, but the damage was done to Potato, and the shock dart will have no problems. Squiggly just doesn't have the time. They're just going to play to try and get them to die to Spike, but with a perfect swing out by Peach. That may have been just enough. It's not. Everyone will fall. Unfortunate for Mira Mesa, but Brooklyn has the big dub.
I mean, that's best case scenario for Brooklyn here, besides just winning the round outright, and even then with how close they were, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, you gotta go ahead and give them props for what they accomplished in the meantime. Knowing that they found themselves not only just a round off the top of that and sure, knocked out all those guns, but even then, knowing that already the switch up, the MMHS is gonna go ahead and have the confidence to force this thing up a second time around. You lose this round, which is probably to be expected considering the kind of armor that you're working with. That's a very, very, very bad circumstance handed to you on a silver platter. And honestly, it's looking golden for Brooklyn Tech if things kind of go in their direction here. So already you're going to hear a bullet fire go over towards that area. You're going to hear the Reckoning go ahead and have lots of splashes to let you know they are in this B main section. Do you push it out? Well, quite frankly, you tried to, but Andrew's the first one to get cut off.
Great in angle from Peach. Lagging behind, just behind Short House, is able to catch them off guard. Was a little bit too tunnel visioned in. It happens. The Reckoning's going off. You see the traces of the waves. You try to follow it, and unfortunately, your eye strays a bit too far to the east, and the west will catch you off guard. Mookie is sitting up at bottom mid, has an operator in hand. No one's really aggressed them, at least with an open sight. Smoke's going down, making it impossible to fire through with any short precision, especially if it's a harbor that's placing it However, for the MMHS side, it's just the Asteroid can still spray through quite easily. One player down in hell, trying to be sprayed down. Does seemingly work, but it's still squiggly alive. They lose their team in Majestic Nuts. They get for one and then die immediately after the fact. If I'm an operator wielding here, Dallas, I'd be falling back, especially with Potato Tap's death and Moonki. They're right into that one. Hammer in hand, getting the heck out of dodge. They want nothing to do with the Mirror Mesa side. That's just around you taking the chin.
Yeah, you have no counter pressure there. You have no player alleviating the attention away to another direction where you can get a shot off on the side of the head. So, I mean, you just play that back towards spawn, see if you can find yourself a first pick early, you know, in later rounds, and see if you can really start heating that thing up. Because, I mean, as it stands right now, sure, it's only round number 4, kind of going ahead, being wrapped up. You're looking at a tie game across the board. Not the biggest deal in the world here. Even then, more so, you had that lockdown to employ off the back of that last death. So, I mean, things are looking good for you, even for a retake situation with what that ultimate can provide. But MMHS, I'm kind of surprised, and even then better yet, respecting them for not really going for the hunt on this kind of situation. You understand that your guns are very, very valuable. Your buy was barely being scratched by in this point, and a lot of you had half armor in that last round. So, I mean, just go ahead, take what you got, bring it to the next one you have to win here, and keep that streak going and start developing your own money.
Speaking of development, an interesting development for the Brooklyn Tech Engineers is with the save of that operator from Moonkey, the rest of the team has to try to decide, do we buy up around it? Do we try to match our maker, so to say, meet him up? I don't think that's the right idea. I think you can kind of bring a disjointed buy to the team. But if you go too far, like I think even Andrew here is going a bit too far here, Dallas, with the Guardian in hand with 100 credits remaining. You're putting all your eggs in the basket that you don't want to have fall over. And unfortunately, Mirror Mesa High School are going to be better prepped. They're going to come out with a lot more force. It's going to be very easy to tip that basket over the edge. On top of it, they've got ultimates. Blade Storm's been popped by Comey. Ult Orb's been collected. Rex is going to try to charge up those Seekers as best they can. And it's just a slow game for them. I think they realize it's going to be an eco round for Brooklyn Tech. They're going to be scared of the operator, yes, which is another factor for why they're falling back. But once they get that go ahead and they realize, hey, Andrew is only rocking a Guardian, we can probably just extend here onto site. That's a Sheriff for the hands Potato Tap. Yeah, they get the kill, but it's still just a Sheriff.
Yeah, but it's also a gun kind of handed over there. I mean, considering that you picked up that Vandal and you're able to kind of draw it back, that's pretty big. Or I think that may have been Prime Class. I'm not quite sure. No, that was actually dropped. So all things, though, even though, regardless of the picks being made and kind of the switch-offs being made here in the meantime, you got to look at what these players are doing. I mean, you're not going to employ that lockdown here. You're not really going to go for the most craziest retake in the world. You're going to kind of be group shotting here to try to pick off as many players as possible, and even kind of use Moonkey as a little bit of an alleviation here to see if you can find that main threat to go ahead and find your kills there in the back of the map. And there you go. Boathouse already picked off one. You found yourself another. If you can get one last player here, it's going to be a pretty good look, and even then you just go ahead and make off with that. Go off with the rest of your day. You see the barrel of the gun, but it's a very, very, very weird angle to be taking there. So just get out. Can't blame them. You went ahead, got yours. That's the majority of the players there and only 2 remaining. Yeah, you just go ahead and dip out and play for exits here. But I think they're both going to run to spawn, understanding that, well, your jet may be back there.
Anticipating that maybe they would actually try to go for the clearance here in this round. Try to play it, they watch it through B main, just make sure if there is in fact one player. They wouldn't send both your way, they'd more likely not just send one if they were really going to go for it. But Mirror Mesa High School, they have a lot of respect for that. They truly do. Despite Moonkey not having been the standout player so far for the Engineers, at least here in a sense so far, going 1-3. Majestic Nuts kind of doing pretty poorly as well, going 1-5. Plenty of time, especially when they transition to the attack, for these 2 duelists to step into their, into their prideful steps, so to say, and actually find themselves with some good success. They still have a lot of respect for that. I think that's coming back from the fact that they know what they can do with the operator. They know how to play against it. When you do scrims, sometimes you're doing scrims against your own team, which Mirror Mesa High School have 2 rosters. They have their blue in their Lavender side. I may be incorrect about the blue side. I will double check with that in a little bit. I'll do it already. It is blue. They can, shift up their rosters and say put different players on each one. They kind of know how they're going to play against each other. They have an understanding about how it is to play against their own players. And I'll be honest, Mirror Mesa High School were pretty darn good with the operator. Whether or not it was Comey, who was wonderful at zoning on the map of Ascent, or whether or not it was handed over to Spectral in the first place, they know what to do with that op. Andrew doesn't know what to do, though, in a 2v1 when they run out of ammo and is trying to make the great escape, but can't. It is still Spectre to find a nice pickup onto Moonkey. A hasty retreat made. Andrew gotta run, being chased as quick as can be. Do they know you're hiding? I think Rex will spray in the tightest corner. They don't know. Oh, they do. Rex has the exact angle. I think Andrew's shoulder was teetering around the corner of that wall.
I mean, you put up a wall like that, then you're going to be tucked away in that corner because you already did for the cover. You just go ahead and swing out the thing. If you were sitting kind of like in the middle or just ran to the opposite side, possibly a little bit of a switch up there, but nah, just nothing because the dart, keep in mind, was also kind of scanning there in the meantime. And you know if you had that short angle. A lot of considerations, but it's all behind us because, well, Andrew once again keeps on pushing up, and we talk about Mookie, we talk about these players and what they're doing. Well, they're finally starting to show up and play today because Potato Tap at the top of the board is doubling down at least for one more round. And will it come at the perfect timing? Well, could be, because that spike's going to go down, and quite frankly, you got 1 second, and one of your players is missing off sight. So, doesn't really matter too much. Plant is not going down. Player may die. Oh no, it's Rex stepping up with a 4.
Rex has been, I would dare say, a very effective force for the side of MMH High School. Before that round, before they got the 4 kills, they were sitting 5-4. Still doing very well. Second best for their team in terms of KD. Comey does also have 5 kills, but has fell in pretty much every single round. In fact, every single round we've seen up to this point, which as your duelist, that's at least doing a good job when it comes to your attack. Being that first man of the fight, being the first man to take engagements and you know, facing the consequences of those actions. But Rex has played very well. Guiding Lights were really nice in the last series when we saw here on Ascent. We saw very good performances when it came to the Tasmanian Tigers for peering around for information. But now they're getting the job done on kills, and a lot of that I think is assisted from the fact that with 2 duelists in front of you, you can let them be the distraction from both directions, 2 different angles that are pretty much always going to be held defensively, and then you can clean up the kills after the fact. So the team is feeding the ego here of Rex, and also that nice 4K to close and secure. 2 picks though already in this round. The Brooklyn Tech Engineers struggling defensively. It's tied 3-3, but it looks like if things continue to go this way, Mira Mesa High School will get the lead back very quickly.
Yeah, most definitely possibly in our things considered. I mean, you have full site control right now. You have all 5 players still alive and well. 3 ultimates if things really start to hit the fan in the wrong direction, but all things considered. I mean, you just have all your dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's. You're not really too worried about what else could start to go underway. Very late spike plan, I will say, but I mean, you still can have the causative eye there to go ahead and just kind of alleviate that attention and slow things down. Honestly, I wouldn't blame Brooklyn if they want to go for a save here, but I mean, they're probably just going to set up for exit frags or see if they can find anything in these main areas of the map. I mean, if Majestic doesn't find a pick here, quite frankly, you don't go for it, but there you go. A little bit of switch up. Things can be plausible now.
Trying to send out a decoy. Some of the pop flash around the corner as well. They'll catch down Comey and catch down Rex. But it's unfortunately just too much still for the Brooklyn Tech Engineers to overcome that 2-man advantage that they had gained off the first 2 pickups. Guess how many they lost by? Just 2 men. Mira Mesa High School will go ahead and ride 4, now going 4-3. It's still an extremely close game, and considering just how much of a lead was gained for Mira Mesa High School after those first 4 rounds in the series we just had prior, Brooklyn Tech are giving them a full-on fight. And attacking-wise, Mira Mesa High School looked very, very good. It's just defensively where they thrived. If they still play as good as they did there, I think we're going to see a 3rd map. I think the Brooklyn Tech Engineers will, in fact, be forced on over to our 3rd map of Haven. And that one, it's too different from Split. It's very different from Ascent. It is actually a complete and utter coin toss, Dallas, about how I'd give that team up.
Yeah, it's a pretty big toss of all things considered. It comes down to the discipline of these guys. And even then, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm loving what we're seeing in the Mookie with obviously that operator in hand earlier, just kind of saying, you know what, I'm going to cut my losses. Not the biggest deal in the world. I'm not going to over-aggress here. I'm going to play around my angles and try to see if I can find my picks and just kind of get mine. Meanwhile, Andrew has been the opposite side of the spectrum, quite frankly. Has been pushing in over and over again.
So
I understand, as a harbor, you can do that, but use that to facilitate a retake maybe. Kind of let your team play around that utility because it's just you as it stands right now. But speaking of just you, already we're seeing Majestic kind of push up, just being a 1-man army. Able to get at least 1 off the board, but in a kind of placement where you can just throw that gun off the field and not really have anything to pick up and reward yourself with.
Yeah, Moonkey has nothing to their hands, just a classic. Forced away by the Owl Drone, just get rid of it. Just get some util bump back their way and some shots, but all in all, just kind of a net negative there for Moonkey, just having forced to fall back. Maybe you say, hey, we keep them away from the A site, which is theoretically true, but the spike was never going there in the first place. It was never in their intention to go to that objective anyways. Harbor Wall goes in play. Nice curve to it to keep them at bay. They'll have to all move into walkway instead, as there is still a player towards defender spawn. Andrew realizes the pressure is coming forward. They almost took down the jet, but couldn't get it done in time. Spike must go down. The attempted spray through with the sheriff just barely misses, but it still got 1 before falling. So the Brooklyn Tech Engineers are left in a 2v3. Each player is going to have to get more than 1, about 1.3 apiece, and that's just not going to happen here for Moonkey. And it's all at Potato Tap, who's got nothing but a sheriff. Tries to clear out close cubby corner. Two in the back of Boathouse, one stacking up on site. Peach's position has been known, but Potato, I'm sorry, this new skin may not do you wonders. Only 3 shots left. The recon bolt over the top, just guaranteeing things and just how dangerous it is to try and shoot that, especially with just 2 shots remaining. I think that's going to be all she wrote. Wonderful swing with all 3 in tandem. Looking for more. They will not escape. Potato will make sure they die to Spike for sure.
That's good.
That's a good round result, I think, for Potato Tap, considering what was there.
Extra couple creds off the back of that. I mean, you don't end up giving an ult tick over to anybody else on the opposing side. You're already at full ult, regardless, I mean, of whether you were or weren't. You're getting an extra couple off the back of it. But Potato Tap obviously already shown what they're made of. I mean, considering that Potato Tap specifically has been at the top of the leaderboard ever since, I want to say, round 1, honestly, with that 3K. Started off at the top for their team and has continued to do so every single round. Therefore, you need to find at least a stance where you're saying, all right, well, being our KJ is kind of our sole reliance. We can go ahead and let them solo station themselves somewhere on the map, and they'll probably hold themselves down pretty well. And I mean, you're relying on your KJ to do that. We just haven't seen that reliance come through yet, that trust be put on somebody's shoulders while the rest of the team tries to really set something up.
Rex is going to work alongside their Silva up at top mid. I'm honestly not shocked to see another eco round really come out here for the Brooklyn Tech Engineers. One of those things you just kind of bite it on the chin, say, hey, we're just not going to be able to put up a full fight here until we get a couple rounds saved under our belts. Andrew maybe could have made the retreat all the way back into market, but I just don't think it. I think it was a bit too far for them, especially as the harbor. But your harbor's too far forward again. Way too far forward.
Your wall slows you as well, quite frankly.
I don't know what Andrew's been doing, but it has not been working here on this map. Potatoes trapped between 2 players, gets away with 1, but that'll be it as the Hunter's Fury comes out and almost gets a kill. 2 players tag. This will make it much easier for the 3 remaining players to step
Oh my
up.
God.
Monkey from where? The wildest of angles from down below with the wall bang. Squiggly joining in as well. Shock dart. It's a 1v1. Squiggly finding the nice pickup for a 3K. What is going on in high school?
They love their shock darts. They love their floor shots. I don't know what to tell you. It's one of the most awkward encounters I've seen on the A side ever. I mean, I've seen floor shots over and over again, but I mean, not to such a degree where it feels like entire teams are fighting with the curtain in front of them.
What do they teach in high schoolers these days, Dallas?
We're boomers, man, like we know.
Exactly. I'm beyond impressed with both sides' performance in this series, but Brooklyn Tech's actual retake there, I thought was impossible with Moonkey's death from down below, which was, by the way, from our side visually, seemed like they were well in tow from being back away from that corner and behind double cover, which means it should not have been able to deal nearly any damage, if any at all.
Yeah.
But to be categorized as a headshot kill through the down below, crazy. And then it just goes even further beyond that. That round is just the definition of Valoranting at its finest. My goodness. The damage being dealt early, though, was actually the best thing. Tippy tap, potato tap, gotta hit those shots. They dealt a lot of damage, could flank from the behind. It's just about the extension, the poor timing for it. Empress will be popped. Lear sent out as well. Mirror Mesa High School extending in deep towards site. Majestic Nuts does get 1 breakaway kill before falling to me. Actual Spectre steps in quickly and will fall back. But kind of gets body blocked by a teammate of Rex and will maybe pay the price off the back of it as Andrew's util will be sent in towards sight. Blade Star from up over the top. Andrew can't escape the damage from the Nano Swarm. Shock Dart will narrowly miss. Tippamy lines up 2 on stairwell. Just Andrew now in the 1v2. Flanked from both sides. It's not a problem for Mirror Mesa High School as they'll get up to 6. And these rounds may seem rough, but my goodness. I just think the engineers are giving away too many free kills.
Yeah, they're successful for MMHS. I mean, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. You're looking for rounds. You're able to go ahead and get something on the field. You're looking pretty good here to kind of actually iron out this game for yourself. And knowing that you've already guaranteed yourself an equal half. I mean, that's weight off the shoulders tenfold. I mean, you're not really concerned about that, especially after the result from the last map. You were very, very thankful for just the opportunity to actually have a second half to go underway, considering that you're just more times than not in a 10-2. You're already double digits just starting things off. You're like, all right, we can just go ahead and scratch this thing. But knowing that already you're right back to an eco, you're probably going to see MMHS win this thing out and get themselves to a guaranteed 7. This is going to be a very close half, but even then, as you mentioned, Brooklyn, considering that regardless of what they've done, I mean, this half hasn't looked all hot for them. it's still doable. The fact that he even squeaked out 4 now is kind of like, all right, you know what? Power to you, but how are you getting these rounds? Because ever since these 4, I mean, every other round besides these 4 hasn't seemed nearly to be the same team.
Magic Nuts lagging down in bottom mid. I can count on 3 hands, Dallas, how many pistol rounds I've seen come out from the Engineers. And there's not even been 15 rounds under play yet. Why does it seem like the Engineers never have enough eco to fully have everything under the belt? There's been too many thrifty rounds, honestly. And despite that, despite the fact we've had so many thrifty rounds, it has still been very close rounds all across the board. Engineers now stuck in a 2-man deficit. They did scrape a win kill early. Looks like they'll join in for a second. Mookie had some assistance. Potato tap over inside market, but they'll get the job done all by themselves. One player very low on site. Aldrin around the corner, though, will slow down the push in by the Engineers ever so slightly. But Peach makes a lot of noise, stepping up on top of walkway, and will bide their time ever so slowly for Mira Mesa High School. Turret placed up, cleared instantaneously, and there goes Potato. But that lines up Monkey for 1, but not for 2. A Spectre will strip through their HP pool for a 3K in that round, as Mira Mesa High School will guarantee in this half positive, with the worst case result being 7-5.
A guaranteed 7th tier advantage here for Mira Mesa is just massive. They're able to lock that thing down, looking to go ahead and just really solidify this half for themselves. And this is where they can really start heating things up and kind of trying for the next half. But honestly, you don't want to take those risks. I like how the fact that nobody on their side, they're not going ahead and whipping out the operator for Comey. They're not trying to go for anything weird here with maybe an Odin on the side of Peach. You're just playing this thing out and saying, look, let's get our shots, let's find our 8th, and let's make sure to double their score line, because their pistols have been, well, majority successful for them. I mean, that's the only thing that we've really seen them win over and over and over again, and it's always because of the element of surprise. This is a map where I feel like we could see that trend kind of break in this next round, but it all comes down to whether or not you can kind of make or break in this one. And Comey already starting things off here with the first blood once again. You're winning against your doppelganger, and that was an operator that was knocked out.
Oh, especially when you're at a point where this could very well go an 8-4 half. Giving up early picks so consistently for the Engineers has been their most driving factor for why they've been struggling. A lot of the time it's been Andrew. Andrew's had a little bit better. I highlighted their name a couple rounds ago. They were still sitting, 5-8. They weren't doing the worst case in the world, but it's been rough for them. I've definitely seen a lot more of their utility in the retakes, which is where you want that harbor to be, where you want those walls to come into effect, where you want the dome to go down, so to say, to block some shots. You need Andrew in those final stages. I think the team has kind of reined them in. 2 kills, though, for Andrew. Made quickly to a 3rd. Almost had a 4. Tipami's head was at the end of the barrel. But unfortunately, Tipami fires first and foremost. Not going to get away with it Han Solo style here. It's Majestic Nuts and Squiggly, though, to find those final 2. The Engineers, despite acquiescing first blood, what a beautiful return in that round of Resurgency, because Andrew stepped up big with the weird play in through long, through A main, to take top mid and just catch 3 players off guard.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we need a little bit more of. I've seen a lot of these rounds. I mean, obviously, where Majestic is kind of going off with this Yoru, able to find those kind of nooks and crannies to slip through. But whenever Yoru can't succeed in that regard, you really just kind of feel choked out. You don't have too much of an actual kit to set your team up. Your Yoru doesn't really play too much like a duelist. He plays more like an initiator, and you have to start thinking like that, and you have to start playing the game out like that. And we just have not seen that come underway so far. So I think on the attacking side of the map, that's where you can kind of unfold that, start to let this game plan start to unravel a little bit more so, considering that you are running that double duelist, that Yoru can kind of squeak things through, because you can't really blunt force the front lines like we've seen Andrew do that entire half. So now he's kind of getting right back home, trying to lead the charge for the rest of the team, thinking he's a duelist, and well, it's once again a very unfortunate lesson you have to learn.
Monkey will try to send as many shots in towards Tree as he possibly can. One of them at least works in towards Peach, and Squiggly Diglett will find themselves another pickup here on Takumi. Despite first blood loss, the Engineers have not used that as a way to fall back on their haunches. They're being as aggressive as they possibly can. Speaking of that aggression, Majestic Nuts inside of Rasters. A double swing, though. Somehow still scraping away a first pick onto Rex. Shocking, to say the least. But not too crazy just yet. The Engineers still maintain that man advantage. Turret on Jin. Swept away by the Frenzy, but ammo running dry. Takes a lot of shots to remove it. Also bides your time with a perfect place bolt from below. Moonkey and Squiggly Diglett have exact line of sight, and they will clearly cut through from down in hell to get themselves up to the first round win of our second half, and that cuts the deficit to just 1.
Yeah, looking for that closure, able to go ahead and kind of make sure that gap is that much tighter. This kind of stress can go ahead and create a lot of questions in your head just initially in terms of this half, considering that even then that last one was going so darn well. And you kind of seen all a little bit more sporadic round wins. It wasn't very consistent, wasn't the kind of strands that we saw earlier coming out of MMHS. So obviously they're going to be a little bit hesitant just initially. But I mean, this defensive side, we got to go right back to the same point that we talked about when it came around to split. You have no Sentinel, you're relying on your Astra here, and well, on a second round, obviously you're not expecting too much, you need your duelist to start going off here, but, well, you don't really have too much of an escape route. Your Jet's going to have that Tailwing, your Raid is going to have that, you know, Devour and the Dismiss, but other than that, I mean, regardless, you're hoping to just kind of win these gunfights outright, and I don't know if you have that opportunity here.
One of Miramace's longest lasting players there was in the site for the longest time, but Spectre just goes for the shade step and just wiggles around on side for a little bit, waiting for the engineers here, saying, hey, they're gonna come out of it any moment now. We just gotta wait, we just gotta bide that time. Maybe it's enough to distract it. Most definitely, unfortunately, was not. The engineers will climb up and tie things, shockingly enough, 7-7. If the storyline and mold of Valorant holds true, your Mesa High School should take this round and go back up to 8-7. But look at the buys they brought. They didn't have full armor for everybody. The rifles were on the board. It seems very scrappy. Speaking of scrappy, a Sheriff alone gets first blood. They're refragged back by Peach. But that's one less rifle against the engineers they have to work with. And they can actually lose out this round in terms of kills as long as this spike detonates and the round result falls to them in the end. And speaking of falling, there goes Andrew, just not able to get out of space here, Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, had a Vandal in the meantime, able to go ahead and kind of drop it closer towards that main walk there outside B main, but can't really get too much done besides that. Just picks after picks after picks here for MMHS, and it's outstanding what they're accomplishing so far. You can get a little bit more blood on your hands. Problem is you just can't get around on your hands already after the back of that, considering that after a very, very good initial take there by MMHS. Man, I mean, that retake looked even better. Already, Brooklyn, you saw the oppression, you saw that Harbor kit really coming through and just shining in so many different colors, but knowing that this is what you have to play for. The faster that Brooklyn plays this map and takes over a site, honestly, the better it looks for MMHS because they're forced to play retake where they're going to succeed every single time. So honestly, Brooklyn, you play for picks here. You're going to see over-aggression from Brooklyn Tech all over the place. You're going to see MMHS looking for these early picks because they have no Sentinel and just trying to back them immediately. You 5-stack a site, maybe A main, B main, wait for somebody to go ahead and peep their head out and get that initial kill. What are they going to do? Absolutely nothing, because they still have to sit back. They can't double down and funnel into your spawn because that's just going to look worse and worse and worse than to be throwing these rounds away. So I think MMHS are kind of talking about that right now to say, look, that retake was amazing. We finally found something that seemed like it worked for us. And I think, honestly, if you just hold back, literally sit and spawn, just hold these sites kind of towards the back in that spawn vicinity, we could really have something on our hands here.
Keep in mind, it is just the bonus round. I mean, they had their rifles. They were able to do well. But honestly, the engineers had forced up with the players that had lost their lives. It was a pretty equal force. I would say it was like an 80% team versus a 95% team. It's not a huge disparity between those rosters. And MMHS did exceptional for the performance that they had. I think if they do sit back and don't overextend, which is what the engineers should be trying to play against, they have a very good shot to continue to go ahead in this lobby like you mentioned. I'll also point out most games are typically lost in the map veto phase. This one, I would argue its biggest factor was the agent selection for this map, where MMHS opted not to go for that Sentinel, and that could be an issue when it comes down to the final few moments. Majestic, though, going in off the back of the ult, does manage to get one, does fall to the hands of Peach. Peach falling back into the back of Boathouse. After getting a good breakaway kill, it's just about biding your time, but the wonderful harbor walls placed over by Andrew do make it quite difficult, but there's the retake. MMHS having no problems with the extension out for Markets. Quickly, you saw the head! And unfortunately, it goes no farther. Shock dart or recon bolt sent into the back of Boathouse. There's the second shock dart. Narrowly miss. The final recon will go out. Maybe enough time for it to recharge to 2. Quigley's going to get spotted, and that's just going to be wall fires prepped up by MMHS. It's unfortunate that shot misses, but once it does, that's when they pounce.
I mean, you saw it right there. I mean, Brooklyn had full control of that side, didn't even check Boathouse, and it was just that one hero player. It was Peach, your top frag at the side of MMHS, able to go ahead and grab all those kills. to facilitate that entire round for the rest of the team. Every single time you check these rounds, I was getting ready even to make the point to say, whenever you're looking at these rounds and how they unfold, because of that exact game plan we just mentioned for the retake, you have to see, all right, how many players are dead before that spike goes down? How many lives have been lost, and what are the numbers looking like for this retake, and what kind of resources are available? Honestly, if that spike went down and Boathouse was cleared, that was a done deal. There was no way, quite frankly, and I will back that to the day I die. But already, I mean, you just saw that they didn't clear the simplest of things that you're expecting them to do so, and it just resulted in an automatic round loss for them, considering that Peach was still alive. So now with the Blaze Storm to be employed, another quick A-hit coming underway, an initial pick already going underway for MMHS. This could be good lookings for them once more, unless this Blaze Storm absolutely goes insane.
It is a post plant though for Brooklyn, so arguably if they get into a good position, they have the advantage, but they gotta climb back some of these kills. Potato Tap starts off good for it. Spectre with one back in return. Rex and Peach joining into the foray as Rex rips through the final. My goodness, the aggressiveness of these retakes are just so successful off the back of Tasmanian Tiger for early information where these players are lagging back from. Recon Bolts to force them into cubbies. Reyna Lear to keep them into space, as well as the ability to get the kill, go completely invulnerable, and then call out the information even further. It's just a team that thrives on communication, it feels like, and that was lacking behind on Split, but it is so present right now in Ascent. And Ascent is the map, Douse, where we say the best teams go to because they know they're better than the others. It's also the team where if you think you're really good, sometimes you get humbled on, and Mira Mesa High School are proving that they are yet to be humbled here, despite the close call we've had here with the Engineers.
And it's also off the back, I mean, keep in mind, Brooklyn, they haven't really had their KJ alive too long there. I mean, Potato has maintained a very good KD ratio here inside this game so far, but I mean, consider that you're relying on this guy to get these frags early on. He still has a role to commit to. He's still a sentinel at the end of the day. You need this man in the back of the line. You need him to last on site. So everything else, once you get to that post-plant scenario, you have that utility there to just kind of go ahead and elongate things. We have not seen that just yet. Instead, Potato's getting up front, able to get these kills a couple times. I mean, once it comes around to the retake moment, there's nothing there in the back of it. So already, Rex has been that facilitator over and over again, has been that initiator, like his role insinuates, to find these kills, open up these opportunities. Because with the spike now finally going down, you're in a 3v4 scenario, and they're just going to push the ever-living stew out of you.
Yeah, there is no smokes left either for the set of the Brooklyn Tech Engineers to be able to lock down the play in here through door, and that just means that with Switch having been completely cleared out by MMHS moments prior, they said what they like to do in the defense, it should be quick and clear for them to step out. But finally, the Engineers have highlighted, hey, they like to stand there. They like to play from there. We know they like to retake there. If we can clear the rafters, man, which did get removed very quickly, it's just a matter of principle now for the players stepping out. Timothy, down to 3 HP, has to get the headshot, but can't, and somehow the Engineers will survive a post-plant scenario with Spike down on the A site. I think they're starting to key in ever so slightly. Just the glimpses of success we saw there, Dallas, to say, hey, we got to push strong arm one direction. Easiest one tends to be rafters because MMHS, like we did on our defense, break that switch as soon as they can to make sure that that door has to be hit with a smoke, and we just don't have that if Andrew dies instantly. And Andrew has 16 deaths in this series.
Yeah, it's over and over and over again. And quite frankly, I mean, that wall is such a huge pushing tool. I mean, you can see so much chaos just ensue from one wall. And it's insane just because of how large that wall is of Harbor. That high tide covers so much ground. And even the Cascades is there as well. The Coves being bulletproof there for a little while. That can give that time to get that information to work with. And Andrew, the player that we've been talking about so darn much and having to keep him alive, he's going to do one more finally and actually get some kills on the board, which it feels like it's been a pretty long time waiting for.
What a play in from Potato Tap to already be in the back of B main, B lobby, I should say. Just catch him off guard when they try to play in through the smoke. In MMHS, they won't even make it to a post-plant scenario here, Dallas. Mookie will stick down this plant. He can argue, hey, they made it there. It's just one man against 4. The team did not survive for the post-plants, and that was the best chance MMHS have 9 times out of 10. Door goes down. They're not breaking door on the defense when it comes to the B side, probably because it's still very nice to work with. Occasionally, it also puts you out in the open when you try to do it in the first place. The second you hit that door, you can extend a little bit further, and you can kind of bide your time on the A side to get it instead. Tippity does get down Boonking, but Potato Tap refrags it back. Good job by the Engineers. They're now just 1 round away. The buffer has been closing in successfully. I think maybe MMHS are starting to run out of money, and that is the case. Expect it when 2 rounds fall your way, and it hasn't been a huge string of rounds in their favor. Just 3, and they were close call 3s in retakes, so you are inevitably going to lose 3, even 4 players in those post plants.
it's another situation. And once again, I always talk about it. It's not about who hits 10 first. It's about who hits 11 already. When you look at this economy, even in Brooklyn Tech, no matter what, I mean, you look at the majority of these players who are going to have themselves a purchase in this next round, at least in terms of the actual rifles. If Mookie wakes up ever in this series, quite frankly, you can see Brooklyn Tech running away with this thing, because it's your duelist that has to wake up on this side, because, well, your Yoru is not going to be your engage. He can ult all day. He can find all the information necessary, but you've got to hit those shots off the back of it. And you're doing it also on an eco round, but it still is causing so much damage where you end up losing it. Baffling.
Crazy. A loss of words is about the most minimalist way to put it. Mira Mesa High School don't even necessarily have to play for the retake there. Advantage in numbers, and he got the same dang numbers. But the A side is so easy to step onto, Dallas. They escape out of rafters, you drop direct onto site. Out through door, you're directly next to Jin's default plant. Your best thrifty case scenario is to go to that site and defend it with everything you've got. And extend everyone out at the same exact time. For B, you got to play a long angle to come out through defender spawn and then step on down through stairs. If you're defending it actively, you got players in the back of boathouse are going to be rushed in from walkway and possibly even through stairs. The boat gets, boat switch gets pulled, and you then got to worry about stairs as well. There's too many angles that are diversified. They're a little bit longer in range. While the A site, it's perfect. It's going to be essentially a 4v5. If you got all 5 players there, one's got to plant down that spike. Use the number advantage you got. Force them into a bad spot, and those up close and personal guns, as long as you're hitting those shots, your teammates will collect and clean up where needed. And I think Mira Mesa High School has a lot of trust in those teammates, Dallas.
It's just reliance on a Yoru for an attacking side. He's an initiator. He is an initiator, quite frankly. I mean, this man cannot play duelist, and it's no diss to Majestic Nuts whatsoever. I mean, he's doing whatever he can, running triple-double so far, able to go ahead and do everything. But the fact you're running a triple-double as a duelist, those are initiator numbers. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, it's just wild. You can already see the kind of the aggression coming through. You do have a purchase here, but I mean, you're going to see MMHS able to go ahead and just kind of pop all the ults in the world for this round specifically if they wanted to, just to able to get something off and find some presence here for a match point. But already you saw the ult go down. You didn't see a Hunter's Fury there to kind of go ahead and stall things out, but you are seeing Empress being invested to see if you can get all the kills necessary.
Double ear out. Actual Spectre's gonna have to drop out of here. The Empress did come down. Huge reckoning. It does get some information in as the players drop in towards Hell. Actual Spectre and Peach do get one apiece. Tip and Me steps in as well. Look how close they have to play by this Cosmic Divide. If they try to step through it and they accidentally hit Rex, it buys them just enough time. Is there space? They'll throw it until there's nothing they can do. The Engineers, there is absolutely nothing they could do. They would have had to extend, and look, once they do, they get those pickups, but they were too scared to do so, too trusting in everything else. Why throw out util if you're not going to follow in behind it? Match point here from Mira Mesa High School, which is needed to force us into map fair and Haven, which may just be one round away here.
Even though it was such a massive follow-up, even then just for that util to even go down, I mean, you're waiting for the delay there. Even then you got 3 players alive. You're probably going to see 2 just going to go ahead and having that stance sitting there towards Arches, covering off that one player to say, look, we'll form a human wall, create a centipede, and put this man in the caboose. Just so long as we're getting that spike to go down. And oddly enough, it was the Empress that was on the spike, which I just find crazy, but all things considered, knowing that even then it still successfully went through and we saw MMHS get themselves another round. I mean, with 3 ultimates now to work with and all of them kind of being very good for, once again, that either stalling, and or that's what we're seeing it for, maybe even a kill off the back of it. No, just a little bit of damage there initially. Even though the Seekers, that's going to make the easiest for taking your life. That's where they really start to excel on this defense.
The Engineers have made their way into sight onto A, and they did so before the door had managed to be destroyed for Mira Mesa. But with the wall being placed by Andrew himself, that means that once door is completely down, Mira Mesa High School, even before that, can just start to spray it down very quickly. Coming with the Blade Storm does get 1, but 2 kills were gained by the Engineers just moments prior. They'll try to flick up to 1 more, fail to do so, and Tip and Me, the last player standing, does remove 2, but they'll fall just as quickly as the rest. And the Engineers will manage to stay into this game for at least another round, as they'll finally reach up to double digits. 12-10 our scoreline. They're gatekeeping Mira Mesa High School for just a little bit longer. And the possibility, Dallas, if OT is present, look what Mira Mesa have to their name. It's nothing. It's not much to them. But let's just highlight what happened 3 rounds ago. They also had nothing, and they still somehow won
Yep.
And they're going to 5-stack B like they did on A last time. Look! No! Run, engineers!
Oh, no, they're going mid with it.
All right.
You're hearing a lot of feet, and even then the turret gives you everything you need to know. Okay, so it's not the same kind of death trap we noticed last time. Blaze able to go ahead and get a pretty good bit. Even then, all the players are doing all a good heck and chunk of work as well. But regardless, still 1v3 situation. Rex can get another gun, but you're just going to go ahead and station somebody in the middle of the map to make sure none of these rifles get picked up, because that's when this round becomes really doable.
Andrew's got really good movement. I'll point out here. I haven't disliked Andrew's general play style and playability.
For a controller.
He's got good movements, great ability to get right back into cover, understanding like where you are in the map in comparison to where you need to be when you get into space. That shows good clinical movement. I just think the overconfidence when it came to their defense is something that just bit them really hard, and now they're having to play as if their life depends on it to end this in a 2-0 fashion. They have to go to OT, and it's infinite OT. This is Valor, baby. I'm sorry to break it to you. You're going to be here for quite a while longer if the engineers can manage to come up here with this round.
Yep.
But Mira Mesa High School, they've got all rifles. Yeah, Rex has soft armor, but Rex is just going to initiate for the team. The responsibility of him is just very minimal in comparison to the rest of the team. They've got wonderful angles here, locking into the A site. Very interesting behind box. One player over towards tree. They've got ults. That's for the Brooklyn Tech engineers. They're going to go ahead and send out that lockdown, and there is no Hunter's Fear to deny this, Dallas.
And this may honestly be signing your own death letter here, considering that even then you're waiting for all these players to go ahead and step back while you find yourself some pressure onto the site, and even on the back.
Oh, great clear!
That's it. You need to make sure, because you know these players are going to play for nothing but retake. You're literally forcing them off site, saying, look, everybody back out. We want a 5v5 for the retake where you start to excel. But finding at least one pick there is going to be really good for them. It comes down to how much more they can get.
Oh, majestic. This round would be won. It's done to this man, but actual Spectre gets 2. Finally dusted Andrew. Not done yet. He's still there.
Oh, my God.
For the Brooklyn Tech engineers. What a round. The lockdown forces them away from sight. That's bad. We've highlighted it so many times. The retake for Mira Mesa is gorgeous. But the engineers send Majestic in on the ults, or sorry, just in the fadeaway in general, all the way into the back up into rafters. They clear out Comey. They did not know they were there. It's just an inkling of an idea. There was no ping to incline that. They just had to guess. They get that information. The rest of the team pounces. They stick up on top of Jane. They get a blind fire shot just barely into Peach before it falls. And Peach has been huge. 20 and 15 in this game for Mira Mesa. Yeah, Spectre's still alive. They get 2 kills, but the team plays it perfectly past that, and the engineers survive the retake. What a round for Anju, and what a round for the Yoru that you've been highlighting as an initiator. I think that's true right there. And just in terms of information, you're an information gatherer at best. You're the new solo for your team right there, except you're even more active.
Your Z key is rebinded to something else when you're in yours. That's what it is.
Wheel. So it goes as fast as humanly possible.
And that's why I feel like Valorant, they are literally trolling with the fact you can't ping, but only so many times inside of a game. It's ridiculous. I try to get people calls, try to help teams out, but you can only ping so many times on a map, and it is infuriating having to explain things because people just don't speak English. It's wild. It's crazy. I don't know. Americans not speaking English, just explain it to me. But all things considered, now being an overtime scenario, obviously this is where the respect for both sides starts to really unfold here. I mean, you're going to see the full force of everything just put onto the field, and you're going to see a lot more slower plays. You're going to kind of see these stances go underway. You're going to see a lot more kind of expected defaults. But a 3-2 split, prioritizing mid onto market, is something I've never really seen before, and Majestic has read it perfectly.
Interesting play as well with the NATO Swarm from the engineers. It does keep them at bay, and the extension has to come forward, but the defense has been insurmountable. Anju lined up 2, and Potato found a 2-piece of their own. It's a 4-piece special between just 2 lonesome players. Exactly what the engineers needed, and they are 1 round away, Dallas, on their toughest side, their toughest battle here, to be able to close things out in a 2-0 fashion and deny the possibility of Haven being brought forward. And the pressure is on for Mira Mesa. Comey's gonna have to bring up everything. They're going glass cannon. The tank is out, and unfortunately, you forgot to bring the armor-penetrating armor. You forgot to bring anything to give yourself some defense. They're gonna go and say, no, that's maybe not the smartest idea. I don't like that. I don't want to get hits. I'm going to extend out here on A with Rex, but no one is there. It's a 5-stack to B. This team's about to push into sight, and they're going to hold for a retake.
There's a full ring around the rosy going on here. You saw the pressure go through A, even at the same time, you go ahead and make the call to say, all right, look, we pushed out A, they're obviously B. Yeah, we know, they're all here flooding in, just absolutely just pushing down the gates in the meantime. And once again, it's a situation, we saw it earlier, but they had to clear Boathouse. It was Peach in there, but he's in the back and dead now. So it comes down to the 2v4, and I don't know if it can be done unless you just clutch it out a miracle.
Regrowth being utilized. The distance gives Comey some space. They'll try to move forward, picking up a Vandal just instead of reloading.
Oh my God.
And they'll take down Majestic. It's gone from a 2v4 to the 2v2. And the damage has been done to the KJ here. This potato off the board. Comey's still alive. Thriving with the Blade Storm. Pain, so Squiggly gets it for free. But it's 56 HP versus...
Oh my God!
Forced to stick it. Squiggly will stick it to their grave. It's 14-12. The Engineers moving ahead. No third map, it's over.
Closing it out, putting in the casket, every nail just accounted for in the meantime. It took them a while to get there, and even then, they thought they weren't going to get the job done at all. But quite frankly, it was those latter rounds of that half where they said, okay, things are doable. Andrew, you're actually alive for a post plant for once. Crazy how we start looking better.
Andrew, it almost always can go back to Andrew. I think that's bad.
I mean, wasn't the spotlight player by any means necessary, but he was necessary.
He was an absolute necessary force for their side. And it's unfortunate that we had to start that series dogging on Andrew. And I won't necessarily dogging. We were trying to be really bad about it. But they were overextending. That was a huge problem that was plaguing them in the first half, but they did manage to get, close returns a couple rounds prior. The first 2-round pickups for them gave them back up to tie and then go 2-1. They did really good. But the issue was Andrew's play style in the initial stages and the team having to make up for that space. Andrew then had an insanely good comeback. Maybe they're just an attacking player. Maybe that's what it just comes down to. I'm not sure. But even when they attacked well, the retakes worked even better for Mira Mesa High School. I don't know what type of what they were drinking towards the end there. They were ready with the caffeine, I think. I think when it came down to the final few moments, they're like, we got to put a couple more scoops in our drinks. We got to get this water in our system because we are funneling out on the wrong end. And we are getting into the site, but we're being forced away just as quickly. A couple big mistakes like the post-plant defuse. They didn't even try to fight back from because they didn't anticipate it to stick it through the Cosmic Divide. A lot of mistakes. But still, somehow the Engineers, through it all, just don't give up, Dallas. OT, and they close it in a single round of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was just that absolute mode through of that just singular OT. The fact we never went to double, never went to triple, it just wasn't really an entire hold. And even then, I was kind of expecting it because you always look for the outliers in those overtime scenarios. I was expecting Brooklyn not to look too hot on their attacking side once more. I was kind of expecting that to kind of be the nail in the coffin to where they push out, they find themselves in the circumstance where obviously too many things aren't really working out for them. And obviously, let's be real, it was behind a hero play. It was a little bit of a clutch there towards the end to actually go ahead and nail it down. But, I mean, those hero plays are set up initially because of the 2v2, 3v3, you're actually holding down these numbers. The entire post plan didn't come through immediately as one big wave because you lost 2 very big players. Every single time your Reyna, Spectre was getting cut off. He was a very big catalyst in Ascent during that first series we saw today with them during the semifinals. That player being cut out, not on that jet anymore, not really having an escape route. And meanwhile, you're waiting on Comey to come all the way around the map, not being on a Neon, but being on a jet. You only have so many sources of mobility. You're not going to be there in time. And you're hoping at that point to say, all right, can we get this done? There's a lot of rising questions that's just racing through your head when you're not even on the site yet.
Overall, there's a lot of problems for both sides. It's high school. Those are going to get ironed out. These teams, these players, if you're a high school, you got 4 years, like college. Sometimes you see a player, we've been casting for a long time, sometimes you see a player 3 years ago and they're still out there. And in fact, they're going back for a master's. They're doing even more. These players are young. This is why pros are scared. This is why people are scared in general. They're scouting for younger blood. They want to get you in the collegiate scene. They want to get you seen. They want to get you out there. These players have a lot of future ahead of them. They got a lot to work with. And honestly, the Engineers, they've showcased here. They're going to finish off the Simmer Storm. They'll take it to the finals. They'll take themselves first place. Mira Mesa High School, you got 2 rosters that are exceptionally well. You took 2nd and 3rd seed in the entire thing, and you got into 2nd place as well. You can't ask for more. It's about as good as you can get. And unfortunately, you can't ask. You got to take when it comes into the finals. And unfortunately, they took the lead, but couldn't hold on to it as the Brooklyn Tech Engineers will go ahead and try to conclude things out very well in that OT fashion. Big congratulations to them. Super happy to have been here and casting this event here in Dallas. I'm sure you are as well. Big thanks to Generation Esports for hosting it and having us on here in the scene. And big shout out to the players and the teams and the schools in general for even just giving these players the chance to be able to make these rosters and do this types of event in the first place. So big shout out all across the board. Make sure you stay tuned for more here for Generation Esports. We'll have more Valorant coming up soon, I'm sure next month. So make sure you guys are here. We'll see you guys when the next broadcast is ready to go underway.